Hi, everybody. Welcome to the live today. Welcome to the group and welcome to my channel. I'm so excited to see so many new members in this group. For those of you who don't know me and you're new, my name is Kathy Merkel-Roddy, and I'm so glad you're here because I have a mission. I healed myself of my spasmodic dysphonia approximately a little over 4 years ago. And ever since my voice has been back, I have been screaming from the mountaintops and trying to get the word out that you can actually heal your voice. And so I'm so glad that you found this group. I'm so glad that you are joining me for this broadcast today. If I questions or comments that you guys might have, it's always so helpful for me to just gauge, getting feedback from you. If there's something you don't understand that I'm explaining and you need to know more, let me know, because we can, always circle back around either in the comments or I can do it on another week, like schedule to do part 2 of any sort of subject. So it's amazing to have you here. I love to talk about all the ways that I healed my voice. So I have this 3-pillar trinity that I used. And those pillars are basically nutrition, rewiring your brain so that you can control your thoughts, emotions, and ultimately your energy. And then also learning how to regulate my nervous system. So today we're going to talk about those adrenal glands because that is linked to that whole feeling of being in fight or flight, our ability to heal ourselves, because depending on where our nervous system is, if it's in parasympathetic or the sympathetic nervous system, we want it to be in the parasympathetic. And the way we get there is to do all of the things that I talked about, the rewiring of your brain and bringing in the high value nutrient dense foods. But also we have to learn to manage our adrenal glands, because often when our voice has gone haywire, our adrenal glands are also fatigued and suffering. And those adrenal glands cover so many jobs in our bodies, and we need them operating properly so that the body can go on to heal the vagus nerve branches that will help us once again restore communication between the brain and the voice. All right, so adrenal glands, they do like many jobs. They actually cover and backfill for other systems that are failing. So when we have spasmodic dysphonia, we have an overburdened liver. Our liver is full of pathogens and potential heavy metals and those sort of things. So there's a lot of functions that the liver is not doing the way it should be doing. So the liver has to do over 2,000 jobs. So things like storing glucose for doling out in between meals, that's one job of the liver. Producing bile to break down fats and proteins, that's another job of the liver. And when the liver is floundering and overburdened, those are 2 things that kind of go out the window a little bit for the liver, or it's not done as efficiently as it should be. So the storage of the glucose is one thing. The liver is supposed to have stores for us that help us navigate between feedings. But when we have an overburdened liver, often in order to continue catching toxins to house those poisonous things that are in our bodies, often the glucose gets dumped and then the liver doesn't have ample supply of that anymore. So we just have to bear that in mind. I talk a lot about eating every 1 to 2 hours, a combination of glucose, minerals, and potassium. This is super important because we are going to give that supply that our cells all need. All of our cells run on glucose. I don't care what anybody has told you about your brain running on fat. That's not true. And we need a steady stream of it to come in to our bodies so that we can continue firing on all cylinders. When we don't have ample glucose, the adrenals kick on and have to pump out adrenaline to get us through to the next meal. Now that we don't want that to happen because there's a couple of bad things that are kind of implicated with that. First and foremost, adrenaline is one of the most toxic things to our nerves, to our organs, our brain, our heart, our pancreas. So we want to start limiting the amount of adrenaline that's continuously pumping through our bodies. Our adrenal glands are also getting worn out because they've been picking up the slack for the liver for quite some time. So we have to begin to take some of the burden off of them. We do this in a few different ways. The adrenal snacks is one important way. So the liver also does not do a very good job of producing bile. By the time we have a neurological condition like spasmodic dysphonia, our bile production is likely faulty. Our digestion is likely medium at best. We're probably not absorbing our food as well as we could. Our liver is also not methylating the vitamins and nutrients that are coming in from these foods. Do you realize that every single food that we eat has to get broken down and the vitamins and nutrients have to be converted in the liver into a usable form that our cells can understand? And the liver not only has to make a usable form, it has to make a usable form for different systems. So the incredible burden on the liver is amazing. And when we start cleansing, we are taking some of that burden off. We are allowing the liver to release some of the stored toxins, and we're allowing it to get rid of it out of the body so it can take it off its plate, basically. So the adrenal glands are, again, just piping in there to, pick up the slack when we eat fats because the bile is not sufficient. It's either not potent enough or there's not enough of it. So the adrenals have to produce adrenaline to push that stuff through so that we can eliminate it and get it out of our systems. So as you can see, it's all interwoven. And so, of course, the adrenals also produce a lot of hormones, enzymes, and what I like to call communicators, because they're all of these things that are produced by the adrenals that are necessary to communicate. Like it's our hormones, our estrogen, our progesterone, testosterone, our insulin, our neurotransmitters that help our brain communicate with our voice or any other part of our body. What we need to do is provide plenty of ample minerals as well as the glucose so that those minerals are the building blocks for all of those things that need to get produced. The enzymes, I like to just call them communicators, the substances that our bodies use in order to communicate with each other. Systems communicate with each other. The brain is communicating with the organs through these substances. We need to have the adrenals go into a healing mode so they can produce the proper amounts of those hormones and other substances that we want to be able to have perfect functioning in our body. And that perfect communication is one way we do it. Often women, especially, menopausal women, are having trouble with their hormones and hot flashes and things like that. That is a liver problem and an adrenal problem. So it comes down, it's not genetic. We don't inherit it from our parents. It's not an automatic thing. I'm getting off on a tangent. I tend to do this, but menopause used to be a glorious time of life for women instead of a dreaded time where we are like laden with all these symptoms. It's not the change into menopause, it's the burden of our liver and on our adrenal glands that makes it painful for us. So if we can heal those things, then we can heal that issue as well. So we've already sort of talked about the nutritional point of the adrenals, keeping them well fed every 1 to 2 hours. And it doesn't have to be a large amount. It can just be a bite or two. If you're doing an apple date celery combo as the perfect adrenal snack, you want to just take a bite of each three of those three things. You could just have a little baggie there and just periodically take out, a piece of each and have a chomp and then move on with your day. Because I know it can feel like you're just doing nothing but eating. And in fact, you are. So spoiler alert, you are eating all the time. But it doesn't have to be large amounts, and we can find workarounds for busy days when you're on the run, or if you have, other responsibilities that prevent you from having the opportunity to sit down and have a snack every hour, which, most of us have that stuff. So that's okay. We're eating every day, all day, and that it's a glorious thing when you start feeling really awesome and energized. You're like so happy for how you feel, and it doesn't feel like a burden. It doesn't feel like an inconvenience at all. You're just like, okay, time to fuel up before I go do X, Y, and Z. Make sure I eat before and after it. If I go to the gym, definitely having plenty of glucose and minerals before I go. And the minute I step out of the gym, I'll take a little lunchbox with me in my car. So the minute I'm in my car, I'm replenishing. Another thing, important types of foods you want to be eating for your adrenals are leafy greens. Leafy greens are those minerals. When you think of anything green, think about minerals. And that's one of the part of the equation that we need. Minerals are also in celery juice. That's why we talk about celery juice all the time. Not only is it antibacterial, antiviral, it's got so many great things it helps you rebuild your hydrochloric acid in your stomach. It helps you, it has an assimilated version of vitamin C that your liver does not have to methylate. It goes straight into your cells. It has calcium. It has unexpected things in it that you're not expecting. That's why celery juice is a powerful tool that we include in our healing protocol, because it does so many things. It's like a power move. So you're helping your body in like many ways when you have that celery juice. So that's why we recommend it. But one of the great benefits is healing the adrenals. I know there was a period of time where I would have 2 celery juices a day. Right after the celery juice book came out, I think it was 2020, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, that whole book is just about celery juice. And I was like, well, that seems like something I need to be increasing. So I went for a period of time where I was drinking 64 ounces. I drank 32 ounces in the morning, first thing, and then I would have another 32 ounces later in the day. As a pick-me-up, because when you feel that lull in the afternoon, again, that is adrenal glands. That's adrenal fatigue. So the celery juice helps give that power shot of those minerals right away, and it kind of revives you, kind of like a coffee would, if you were still drinking coffee, which I hope you're not. Yeah. So, feeding your adrenals is one of the big important things. We also have to learn to start managing our adrenals from sort of the emotional side of things. We have to sort of start understanding that our brain, our primordial brain that's trying to keep us safe, is not always giving us accurate information. Often it's giving us an amplified version of a danger signal that is unnecessary in the moment. This happens when we experience prolonged stress or PTSD at certain times of our lives. Sometimes that on-off switch gets a little faulty and the default just becomes, 4-alarm fire every single time. So when we find ourselves going into that 4-alarm fire feeling, it can be triggered by those neural pathways that are just in the default mode right now. And we have to recognize, we have to just kind of be at 30,000 feet above ourselves, looking down, saying, okay, is there really a need for you to be feeling as anxious and as upset or worried as you are right now? And if you can just look at it from an objective point of view, kind of become the observer of your emotions instead of like immediately buying into that, you can observe that probably there's a little overreaction going on. The funny thing is that it could be coming straight from the brain and then cause the adrenals to overreact and dump a bunch of adrenaline. But it can also be coming from the adrenal glands, because as they become faulty and fatigued, they sometimes are like a sputtering engine. Sometimes they're releasing too much adrenaline, and then at other times they're releasing too little adrenaline. So I spoke earlier about feeling that lull in the afternoon. That's a sign that there's too little adrenaline in your body at the moment. If you're experiencing difficulty going to sleep, for instance, that's too much adrenaline. And so similarly, the adrenals produce over 2,000 blends of adrenaline. So there's an adrenaline that helps you go to sleep, an adrenaline that helps you stay asleep, one that helps you wake up, one that makes you dream, one that makes you happy, the happy emotion adrenaline, the upset, worry type of adrenaline, the fear, the like, oh, you startled me, oh my gosh, that car almost just ran into me, that kind of like, immediate dump of cortisol. You feel it. It feels terrible because it's there to help you get out of that situation, whatever you're perceiving. And in those situations, like the car thing, like that's a legit concern. So, that's probably, you're not gonna be able to control that one when you have a near miss of someone almost hitting you in the car. So, those types of things can happen. But once we get spiked, often we just want to automatically stay in that spike instead of just saying, okay, it's okay to calm down. It's okay. So you can just do simple little things like just do some butterfly tapping and just telling yourself you're safe. You're safe. There's no danger right now. There's no reason to be upset. You can do some box breaths, which are breathing in for 4, hold for 4, release for 4, and hold the release for 4. You can do some tapping, emotional freedom technique, which is just tapping the meridians on your body where you can override the vagus nerve from being in fight or flight and just trigger it to calm down automatically. You're giving it a physical reason to calm down. So, and just change your state. Move into a different room, go outside, shake your body, move your body, do some light exercise, watch a funny video, call a friend. Probably not a good one for people with spasmodic dysphonia. Phones are very triggering, so scratch that. Let's not do that one. Listening to some music, some calming music, or if you have a book that relaxes you or whatever. Social media is not what I would recommend for calming down, though, because that is a whole nother triggering subject, in my opinion. When you are really, really focused on doing your healing, I would advise you to put your phone down and only give yourselves permission to look at it periodically through the day and not make it an instant automatic response the way it can be. I know for myself, when I was healing, the first year that I was healing myself, I was completely off social media. It just made me too upset. It just made me so upset and sad to see everybody else living their great lives. And here I was, suffering with all these symptoms and unable to do all the things that I used to love to do. So, obviously coming to this group is an exception. This is not like scrolling through, mindlessly through who got a new car and, whatever. This is useful information if you need a little pick-me-up every day to come watch a video here. That is a great idea. Anything that you can do to start calming yourself down. And you need to schedule those calming sessions in for yourself throughout the day. The thing is I just rattled off a few different tools, and I bet you guys are familiar with most of those. I bet you've even used them here and there. But the funny thing is that when we get adrenalized, we're in fight or flight, all of those things go out the window. We don't remember that we're supposed to be doing those things to calm ourselves down. But if we start doing them more regularly, then the chances of us remembering during a crisis time or a time when we're spiked is much greater. That's why we always need to practice things. Practice makes perfect. That is like a saying for a reason. And I would highly recommend just implementing these at certain points during the day. In the morning, first thing, if you get that adrenaline dump before you even get out of bed, that used to happen to me. I would just get in this kind of panic about having to face the day for no reason. Nothing had happened. Just it was my faulty adrenals. So I would take the time to do some breaths and do some tapping in the morning. And then again, later in the morning after my morning routine, I would, take time again to do it. Let's check in with myself. How am I doing? So then again, later in the afternoon and then before bedtime, keeping some good sleep hygiene is highly recommended because we have to aid the body in winding down. Limiting phone time in the evening is a great way to approach it. In addition, cut yourself off of watching TV or anything, especially a program that's extremely intense and adrenalizing, if you of an hour before bed, let's say. And that brings me to another subject. I always I have so much to share, but our sleep, the quality of our sleep is actually affected by the time of day that we're sleeping, believe it or not. So the magic hours of getting the most intense beneficial sleep are between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. And that can oddly work in the morning too, which is very interesting. I'm not quite sure why that is, but from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Though for whatever reason, the way, the energy flows in our bodies naturally along with the rhythm of nature, those hours are more prone to deep sleep and repair. So, I don't always practice what I preach on this. I have gone through periods where I did, but then lately I've had some late night things going on. And so it's been more 11 p.m. going to bed. But you want to take advantage of the things that are available to you naturally. And that includes nature, stepping outside, spending time in nature. That's so important to give yourself a reset because we just are geared that way. We're wired that way. We might as well use our wiring for good in this case instead of letting the wiring of the default going into fight or flight or our primordial brain keeping us in fear mode and keeping us reminding us of all the things that are going wrong or could go wrong or went wrong last time. We got to let it all go. We're just trying to calm our nervous systems. I would urge you to use new metrics when you evaluate your day. I would urge you to use things like, how calm was I all day? How did I regulate my nervous system? How many of the protocols was I able to do? Was I able to get my celery juice and my heavy metal detox smoothie and my lemon water throughout the day? Was I able to stay fat-free if you're working towards doing that? Was I able to keep the salt out? Was I able to add in asparagus or add in apples, throughout the day? We all have different little things that we can do throughout the day to help boost our healing. And instead of analyzing, I had that one conversation with so-and-so and my voice was kind of faulty, I stumbled, I wobbled. Instead of focusing on that, let's let that go. We're healing. We're in the process of healing right now. So we don't need to scrutinize. We know we're healing. We have to trust our body's going to do it in the time that it can and that it knows how to do for our highest good. So we can't just let those negative thoughts and judgments ruin our mood, our energy. Not only am I looking at how peaceful and calm am I throughout the day, I am looking at how much joy could I bring in every day? How much of those things that I actually love to do and boost my mood, and moments where I'm just carefree and not overanalyzing, not thinking. Again, these are the gems of the moments that we want to aspire to. These are the moments that we want to keep adding on to the last ones. The more we can accumulate, the more we're settling into that healing frequency. We want to be in the healing frequency. I used to think about, I had a joke with another friend of mine who was healing, and we would talk about neutral is the new awesome. Because sometimes when we think of joy and happiness as those really high points in our lives, when we have big events like we get married or we have children, or we get a promotion at work, those high points, there's like an adrenaline that's also associated with those high points, that even though it's good for our overall mood and energy, the adrenaline still can be a little harsh on our nerves. So sometimes just being neutral and being like, I'm in the flow today. I'm not going to force it. I'm not going to scrutinize it. I'm going to trust I am where I need to be, and I'm going to just go with the flow and check off as many of the things that I can that are in my favor, and let go of the rest. Not beat myself up, not scrutinize, not overanalyze what my voice sounded like all day long, and visualize once again what it's going to be like when you have your voice back and everything is healed. All right, I'm going to look and see if we have any comments here or questions. Please put them in. Sometimes, for whatever reason, I don't see them till after I end this, and then I'm like, well, darn it. But you can always, if you're watching the replay and you want to put a comment or a question in there, something that resonated with you or something that you weren't quite clear that I said, because I know I jumped around a little bit, talked about a few different things. The funny thing is that we're all one big holistic being. And so all of these things affect the other systems in our body. So I feel like I have to talk about all of it a lot of times in order to pinpoint talking about healing the voice. The voice is a symptom of other disconnects and systems that have broken down. The voice is fine. Your voice is completely fine. It's the communication that's broken down. So we just have to remove the obstacles that are impeding that communication between the brain and the voice in order to let it fly and just come out normally and naturally again. I know you guys can do it. I'm proud of you. If you're working on these protocols and you're actually implementing the things I talk about, you are an extraordinary person. This whole healing journey is not for the faint of heart. This is not for the average person who's going to dabble. This is for someone who's extraordinary and is fully committed to their healing and is willing to put their healing first and stay the course and go all in. So again, we do this gradually, starting it, but once we've mastered the basic tools, then we stay the course as long as it takes to heal. Just 1% change every day, and you will eventually get there. So if you didn't do perfectly today, oh well. Guess what? There's always tomorrow, and you know better now what to do. When we have pitfalls, if we are in a situation where we eat something that we shouldn't be eating, we're tempted to, we get upset, it's just a chance to learn. It's a chance to do better next time, because we're going to analyze that and just say, okay, if I had done this in that moment, that could have maybe helped me avoid X, Y, or Z. Now you have a game plan. You know what you're going to do next time. Planning is also something that is a lifesaver in this lifestyle. We have to know what we're going to do in social situations. We have to know what food we're going to pack when we leave the house. I'd always recommend traveling with some snacks. You never know when you could get stuck in traffic or you have to make an extra stop on your errands. Again, we're trying to guard those adrenal glands like the gold at Fort Knox. We're trying to protect them, and keep them from having to overexert. We want to give them a rest so they can repair themselves and then go back to functioning properly. Anyway, okay. Well, I hope you guys got some good stuff out of this. I love you, and I hope that you're fighting the good fight and staying the course. And I will look forward to your questions and, see you in the group. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day, guys.